Hello, my name is Nishan DeSilva. I work in the Office 365 engineering team focused on data governance. I'm here to talk to you about some of the new features that we recently released in the Office 365 platform, specifically around data governance and some advanced data governance capabilities around auto-classification and intelligent retention. But before I get into talking to you about some of these capabilities, let me talk about who I am so that you know what I have gone through in my own career around data governance. So I've been in the industry for about 20 years, maybe too long. I've been working on various legacy applications, trying to take a records retention schedule and trying to automate that and really getting business users to be able to comply to the regulations or the citations or for business reasons why we need to keep records. But the reality is, most of the time, it is really hard for our business users to really want to educate them, also tell them to actually do records management. So some of the things that I'm going to talk to you about today are really about how you can actually auto-classify and use machine learning to really understand your data and be able to quickly classify it and retain it for your organization. So let's get started. Hello, this is Nishan. Now let's go through our first capability that I'm going to show you. The first capability is about applying a universal retention policy across all workloads in Office 365. So first I'm going to do is come to my screen where I can log on to Office 365 and then click on Security and Compliance Center. And inside the Security and Compliance Center, I can navigate down to Data Governance and very quickly click on Retention. And from the retention screen, I can very quickly create a policy. So this retention policy that I like to create for the service, let's call it General Documents. And let's go ahead and say inside the service, I like to retain documents in my service for 10 years. And I hit Next. And here, very quickly, I get to see that I can run a universal policy across all my Exchange mailboxes, across all my SharePoint sites, across all my OneDrives. I can even include or exclude. Same with Office 365 and Skype for Business and Exchange folders. And soon to come will be Yammer and Teams. And here, I click Next. And then I can also, if I have to comply to the SEC 17A regulation, I can actually put a preservation lock here. Otherwise, I can hit Do Not Turn On and hit Next. And very quickly, I can summarize that policy and I can create that policy by clicking Create. I was able to very quickly create within a few minutes a universal retention policy across the entire Office 365 service. With that policy, what you did was you were able to preserve or retain information so that accidentally, if someone deletes information, you can actually recover it in the recoverables folder in Office 365. For more information about this, please visit our website on data governance in the Technic documentation section. Hello, it's Nishan again. Now I'm going to talk to you about how we can run a deletion action for a specific location. For example, let's say that you're working on a special M&A deal and you have a special team that's working on this deal, and we want to make sure that after the deal is done, you want to get rid of the information. And so I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, let's go ahead and create that policy. And let's call this M&A deal for code ABC. And then I'm going to say I want to be able to only retain this information for, let's say, 1 year on creation. And very quickly, I can hit Next and then determine whether it's the different users. So here, I'm going to basically say I'm going to just protect and delete this group of folks. So I can choose the group, Engineering. And I hit Choose, and I'm done. I hit Preservation Lock. I'm going to say No, and I can create that policy. Very quickly, I can look at the workloads and determine what workload that I want to create a deletion action. You can create a deletion action across the entire service or pinpoint very specifically for a location or a set of users with the different capabilities that we have and create that deletion action, and you can automatically delete that information. I know most of our customers have asked us about what about manual disposition, and that's a feature that we're working on right now that will be available for you in the near future. Thank you. Hello, this is Nishan again. Now I'm going to show you how you can take your records retention schedule and actually take record types and make them available for the business users to manually tag them. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is actually show you how this will work in Exchange. Okay, let's go ahead and create a label first. And I'm going to go to my retention schedule. And I'm going to go ahead and pick SOX documents. And I can come back and paste that. And then I can turn retention on. By the way, every one of these little icons gives you help for what you want to know about the specific actions that we make it available for you. So here by default, it's 7 years for SOX documents. And I can also see last modified or labeled, or also we will be providing event-based retention very soon. And I can also, for our advanced data governance capabilities, tag this as a record where it is immutable. And I hit next, and I can go ahead and create that label. And I create the label, and immediately I have options to publish the label. So I click Publish, and I hit Next. I can pick the location I want to publish. As I mentioned, I'm going to publish it only for Exchange. So I'm going to go ahead and then turn all the other buttons off so that I can only publish this to Exchange. Now, you can also publish this across multiple workloads or specify different workloads. And I'm going to now hit Next. And then I just want to make sure I give it that name. And I publish the label. Now I'm going to show you, after I publish this, how does it actually look like inside email. I go into my email. I can very quickly go into my right mouse button click, and it shows you how that label that we created shows up here. It takes about a day for the label to show up, and this is where you can see the tags that shows up. And what this means is very quickly you can create a label, publish the label to any specific location or inside Exchange to either mail the entire service or to any mailboxes, and you have these labels now available. And I will show you later on in a demo how you can also do auto classification. Thank you. Hello again, Nishan's back. This time we're going to actually go have some fun in SharePoint world and show you how I can create a retention schedule for SharePoint. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and call it HR documents, and I can hit next. I can apply retention, and let's go ahead and say this is a 10-year retention, and I want to make sure that I retain information from last modified date. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be sharing event-based retention capabilities with you soon. I can also, at this point, use the advanced data governance capabilities of records, where you can actually be immutable, where the business user cannot delete it. I hit next, and I go ahead and create that label. So as I create the label here, I can then very quickly come in and publish this label to my SharePoint sites. So that's what I'm going to do next. I go ahead and hit publish, and I hit next, and then I pick the locations I want to publish it. Now, I could also publish this to any of the other locations in Office 365, but we are going to only do this for all my SharePoint sites, or I can pick department level SharePoint sites or specific business unit, or I can do it for all the SharePoint sites I can include or exclude. I hit next, I give it HR docs, and I hit next, and just like I did my email, I can hit publish. And after this gets published, now let me show you how it actually shows up in SharePoint. So I'm going to go ahead and access my SharePoint sites. I went into my Office 365 SharePoint, and I'm going to go into my HR project site. And when I go into this site, I go into my document library, and here's where I can see the documents, and then I very quickly can go to my information panel. After I click on a document that I want to be able to apply retention, I go over here to the information panel. I scroll down, and you see very quickly I can apply the label. So in this case, I was able to very quickly create a label and publish it, and then it shows up here. So I know I mentioned earlier in my other demo, it takes about a day for the tags to show up. But here, I have already published these in a couple of demos ago. So here I am, very quickly, I can publish that label, and it's done. And I also showed you the other capability that we had was about immutability of the record. So you can actually create a column here, and very quickly you can see if I had created a label that was actually immutable, then it would have, when I tagged it, it would have said, this is a record now. So that's how very easy it is in Office 365 with data governance capabilities, where you can very quickly create a label, publish the label, and push it to either all of SharePoint or to a specific site. Thank you. Hello again, it's Nishan. Now we are on to another workload that one of my favorite is OneDrive. So how do you now apply a retention policy to OneDrive? Very similar to how we did in Exchange and in SharePoint. I'm going to go ahead and create a label, and let's just call this Working Docs. And I want to be able to say, in our organization, OneDrive is a personal workspace, and I want to be able to retain information in here for, let's say, just 1 year. And I want to say, we want to save it for, let's do a trigger of last modified date. As I mentioned in the previous videos, we'll be also providing event-based retention very soon for our capabilities. And here I am going to hit next. I create that label, and now I can very quickly come in and publish that label to OneDrive. I come back here. I'm sure you're familiar with this screen now. I'm going to turn off Exchange, SharePoint, just leave OneDrive open, close my groups. I just want to make sure that I close everything. And then I hit next. Then I give it a name. And then I am good to go. One of the questions I get is, why do you have to do this second policy again? Which is, if you look at that record type, many organizations have the record type that maps into the category or the record series. And that's how you can kind of create working docs for, let's say, marketing, right? And then you hit next, and you publish the label. So let me show you, when you publish the label, it's going to take about a day for this label to show up. But if I go to my OneDrive, and I go select a document, very similar to SharePoint, I can go to my information panel, and inside my information panel, I can scroll down very quickly and apply a label called Working Documents. And this is where you publish it, and it'll show up. So that was how fast I was able to quickly create a label, publish a label, and then show you how easy it is for the business user to come in and tag that label. Thank you. Hello again, it's Nishan. Now let's talk about import process. This is where we have our customers who want to bring their legacy PST files or OneDrive or SharePoint sites into Office 365. We made this process pretty simple, but if you do want more assistance in bringing that data in, we have an exciting fast track program that you can find information on our website. But I'm going to show you today how easy it is to bring one of your email PSTs into the Office 365 service. So let's get started. So from our Security and Compliance Center, I can go into my dashboard of data governance. I can click on import, and I can create a new job. Now you need to have special permissions to create this import job, so please make sure you refer to the technical documentation of being an Exchange administrator with the right permissions so you can actually create that. And so if I can say email here, I have the option of either ship hard drives to a physical location of Microsoft or actually uploading this directly to the cloud. And you're given a couple of choices here, where you actually use our capabilities in Azure to go through and review this information that gets brought in for import and gets uploaded. And we want to assure you that when we create this temporary space for you to come through Azure, it is encrypted and protected, and we will protect your data. So this is how very easy it is for you to quickly import the information into Office 365. For further information of complex import processes, please contact our fast-track individuals who are familiar with importing complex data into Office 365. Thank you. What I just showed you was our smart import process, which is part of our advanced data governance capabilities. It really harnesses the power of our Office 365 capabilities of bringing legacy or on-premise data into Office 365, where not only we are able to bring it in, we can classify it and put some intelligent policies around it. Thank you so much for watching. Hello, it's Nishan again. This is the moment I've been waiting for, to show you auto classification. We all know in any organization, it's a true goat rodeo when it comes to trying to get our business users to classify information or do anything around records retention. Because one, they're busy. Two, they really don't have time to focus on some compliance activities while they focus on the business work. So this is why auto classification is the powerful way for you to really do advanced data governance. So let's get started. What I want to show you is how do I run a retention policy to all the NDA contracts that's in either a SharePoint site or inside OneDrive or maybe across the entire Office 365 service. So let's get started. First, I'm going to go ahead to the Security and Compliance Center and go to Content Search, and I'm going to create a query. And let's call the query NDA for XYZ firm. And then I'm going to say search everywhere across Office 365. And I'm going to hit next. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit search. And this will actually search and come back with the results of how many results it found here, how many NDA contracts. So this way you know before you actually apply a retention action, how much NDA contracts actually exist in either that SharePoint site or in OneDrive or across the entire service. So now that we know that, now let's go ahead into classifications. Very similar to how we created labels first, we still do that, like the record type NDA contract. So let's create that label called NDA contract. And then many organizations, because it's a really high value document, the retention is permanent. And then I'm going to say, make it, hit next, and I create that label. And after I create that label, I can then, the thing I did before was publish, but here's the cool thing. I can now auto apply this label. And that's the magic of auto classification. And then I hit next. I'm going to come and basically say, I want to be able to run this NDA contract. And here's where I get to hit next and create that. Let me give you a couple of suggestions here. You want to be able to write some smart queries. And here I'm just writing a simple query saying NDA contract, but there may be different kind of queries you can run. And there are some best practices we hope to publish in the near future. And I hit next. And I give it the name. And then I can pick the locations. For this one, I'm going to do it across the entire platform. And many organizations might say, I know I'm going to only have NDA contracts that will show up in these business units. So you can pick the locations you want, like we did in the past. Or you can pick across the entire platform. So this one, for this demo, I'm going to hit all. And then it gives you a SLA, how long it will take. And voila, you're done. So very quickly, I was able to show you how you can, one, go do a content search and identify actually how many NDA contracts actually exist in your organization and refine that search with our content search capability. And then come back and then create a retention action or a deletion action through our labels, and then auto-classify that information, and then finally publish that. Thank you so much. Hello again. This is my final video. I'm going to show you about the capability to actually apply a sensitive type retention. And what I'm going to show you is how we can take something like the UK Data Protection Act and what specific data that we can retain or delete as part of this capability I'm going to show you. This is also really going to be important for us as we think about GDPR. But let me show you how to do this. Let's go ahead and create a label called UK Data. And I'm going to go ahead and say retention on. And then I can go ahead and create this label. For let's say UK Data, I need to retain it for 12 years for this demo purpose. And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And I can create this label. And very similar to how I published that label or auto-applied the label before as for an NDA contract, I can now go ahead and auto-apply this label. And here's the really cool part here. I hit next, and I actually have all these various capabilities as part of advanced data governance that's available for you. So here, I can come into privacy, and I can go down and click on what we were talking about earlier, which is the UK, right here, UK Data Protection Act, and you can see with the query and the intelligence part of machine learning and pattern recognition, we can now detect the UK insurance number, your passport, and SWIFT code. And I can review that very quickly. If I want to customize it, I can do that too. I hit next. And then I give it a name. And then I hit where I want that protected across the entire service, or I can specify a location, and I hit auto apply. Great. So now that you've seen how very easily you can create a sensitive type by creating a label, auto-publishing that label, you can see how very easily you can actually take that UK Data Protection Act and retain information that's important to that regulation. Very similar to some of the capabilities that we are working on for GDPR. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching our data governance and advanced data governance capabilities. For more information, please go to TechNet website and search for data governance resources. Thank you so much for watching.